Have you ever wondered how the top 1% of YouTube creators are so good on camera? They manage to be able to keep retention and engagement throughout the whole video. Yes, of course, it has a lot to do with video editing and even sometimes personality, but there's so much more to it, so much more that not many people actually tell you. You see, for the most part, it really all comes down to one thing: the scripting. Now, this is a little bit hard for me to say as somebody who was a video editor before coming a YouTube strategist. However, the data is just shown time and time again, the way the scripts lead the video is what keeps people to stay engaged and retained longer on average than the actual edit. And despite what you might think, you'd be extremely shocked with how many of your favorite creators actually use a script. In this video, I'm going to show you guys the exact blueprint that the top YouTubers, your favorite YouTubers, use to script their videos, to grow their YouTube channels, and to keep people hooked. So go get a cup of coffee or tea, go grab your pen and paper, and get ready to lock in. Okay, so the first thing is when we enter into this scripting framework that I basically put all into a Google Docs for us to go through. It's not pretty, but it's simple and it's easy to understand, and it'll be extremely valuable, okay? The first thing I want to talk about is something that I've invented called the Spark framework. I do want to give credit where credit's due. I did get this from YouTube strategist and YouTuber himself, Film Booth. He came out with a scripting framework or strategy, I suppose you could say, and his was entitled Bens, B-E-N-S. However, there was a couple things that I felt that were left out there, and based off of my experience, again, this is only what I'm teaching you today. It's what's worked for me to grow my clients, and I know there are other ways to go about scripting, and I'm totally cool to be able to say that up front, that I don't know everything. I'm just teaching you what's worked for me. I'm here more as a guide than as a guru or expert. That being said, I basically just reverse engineered his framework and I invented my own called the Spark framework, okay? Which means before I ever get into scripting, I always run my packaging through this framework to then set up my script, okay? What do I mean? Well, as somebody who was an editor before I became a YouTube strategist, I really love somebody named Hayden Hillier-Smith's YouTube channel. And the way that I would run through this for one of his videos is right here. But first, I want to show you what the Spark framework is. So basically, what does this acronym stand for? Well, first is significant. So when I have my packaging, my thumbnail and my title, idea or concept, I look at it and I run it through this framework to make sure that it's one that I should even script in the first place. Okay. So what I do is I first ask myself, okay, is this significant, right? Is this idea significant or noteworthy, new? Does it address any big topics or any pressing need? Okay. The next one is P, practical or powerful. Is this idea practical? Is it easy to execute? Or does it have a powerful emotional or intellectual pull, right? The next one is attention grabbing. Does this idea that I might want to do, does it stand out as fresh? Does it stand out as new or different from what's already out there? Does it grab attention, right? Relevant or reliable is the R in this framework. Is the idea relevant to your target audience? And is it backed by reliable proof or data, results, or examples? Okay. So basically proof of concept is what this is. K is for keepable. So will the audience want to actually keep this idea in their minds? Will they want to share it with people? Is it memorable or something that will stick in their minds? Okay. For example, to really understand this, let's take this video that Hayden did. It's my favorite video on his channel, and it helped me a lot as a video editor. And it's 5 secrets you'll be embarrassed you didn't know by Hayden Hillier-Smith. This was the thumbnail. This was the title. If this were me and I were looking at this right now, and this was a video I wanted to come out with, but this was my concept and my title, I would look at it and I would ask myself, okay, let's look at the Spark framework. Is this packaging for this video idea, is it a significant or big idea, right? And my answer in this case would be yes, it is, right? Because I'm making a big claim, which could mean a big idea. I'm claiming that only experts know this, okay? Only the pros, and you probably don't know this. Okay. The next question is it practical? Is it feasible? Is it easy or is it easy to execute on? Okay. And if I were looking at this packaging, I would say, Well, yeah, it is, right? There's only 5 editing secrets for us to know or to remember because he's telling us in the title. Next is it attention grabbing? Is it new or is it fresh? Okay. And yes, it is. He's calling us out, right? He's clearly, first of all, using complementary colors, okay, which is attention grabbing. And it's relatable in a sense that he's Logan Paul's old editor, which means he has an insane reputation as a video editor. Okay. He's a pro. And he gives us the feeling that even he didn't know what these expert tips are, right? So yeah, it's attention grabbing. Next is it backed by results, or does he have the right to be able to teach us this? Okay. And yes, he does. Why? Because Hayden Hillier-Smith is Logan Paul's old editor, one of YouTube's biggest YouTubers. So if he did that and he's part of the reason he grew so much, then yeah, of course it's backed by results, right? If he's backing it, then he has the proof of concept or the credibility for me to want to click. Okay. Next is it keepable, right? Is this a video that will provide value? And to this, again, I would answer yes, especially if it's tips that we can carry with us in the future to be better video editors, right? And that's how I use the Spark framework. Again, this is very, very much so influenced and inspired by Film Booth. I want to give credit where credit's due. I just kind of made it my own and I turned it into the Spark framework. But essentially, this is what I always run my packaging through and my clients' packaging through before I ever work on a video. And if I answer yes to every question in the Spark framework, then I proceed to the script, okay? Now I want to run you through the actual structure of the script. So again, this whole video, this whole scripting video is inspired by Film Booth, because before I really dove into YouTube strategy, when I was just a YouTuber, I watched his video on scripting and it really helped me a lot elevate my scripts. But then I spent thousands of dollars on other coaching to learn how to do YouTube strategy in addition to just hands-on experience. And during that time, there was a lot more I learned about script writing that I started to incorporate in addition to what he teaches, right? And that's where I basically came up with this. So this is a scripting structure. This one is actually the one that Film Booth used. However, there's a lot of and ifs. What do I mean by that? There's a lot of caveats here, as in sometimes we want to add more than just this. But the most simplistic point of view, we have the first hook. And no, it's not the hook that you would normally click on or you would expect to see at the first few seconds of a video. The first hook that we're talking about is the packaging, right? The thumbnail and the title, which is why it's so important for us to use the Spark framework with our packaging before we come out with a video. Because that is, if we answer yes to all of these questions, then we definitely have a hooking enough packaging to get them to actually click onto the video. When they click onto the video and it comes to the actual script and video itself, what we're going to do is we're going to have a hook. We're going to then have a setup. We're going to then have a loop or a rehook. We're going to have a point, so where we actually talk about it. Then we're going to have a loop, a statement, or a story / rehook. We're going to have a second point, right? We're going to have another loop, statement, story, or rehook, point 3, and then a hook and setup for our call to action, okay? This is the framework. This is the structure. But what does this actually look like? Well, we're going to break down each one individually, and then we're going to actually show you an example of how I've used this for my own script, because I can't show you my client scripts because we have NDAs and stuff. I cannot show you guys that for privacy's sake. And also, I just don't think they would want me to reveal that. But at least for now, I can show you how I've used it for my scripts, okay? So the first thing is hook. Now, the purpose of the hook is to get the person interested. We all know that, okay? But there's a few different strategies to go deeper into a hook. But to start with, there's really 3 hooks that we need to understand. There's the question hook, the story hook, and the statement hook. Okay. The question hook is where we simply just pose a question, a really engaging question that your viewer wants to know the answers to. Okay. For example, in Film Booth's video, this was an example he gave that I really liked, so I wrote it down. A question hook is, have you ever wondered why train tracks are filled with stone? Okay. And then you have other ones like this one. I like this one a lot too. This is a great one. Have you ever been fed up with no matter how much you exercise, you just can't seem to lose weight? Or have you ever struggled with have you ever struggled to make over $1,000 or more a month with video editing, right? The key with the question hook is to pose something extremely curiosity evoking, such as this first question, or you could do a question that hits on an emotion or pain point. And to do this, you really need to know who your audience is. So if I'm a video editor or I'm a fitness coach, I know that for a majority of my audience, they're going to be either struggling to lose weight despite exercising, okay? Or if it's video editors, I know that they're going to be struggling to make money as a video editor, okay? Then the next kind of hook we have is a story hook. Again, I really wanted to put this example here that Film Booth left in his video of a story hook. This is a great way to do it, but essentially what a story hook is when you start the video with a story, but you drop the viewer into the story at the height of the stakes, when the stakes are the highest, meaning when there's the most conflict or the most drama happening in that part of the story. That's when you want to start the video. Somebody who does this exceptionally well is this creator here, Michelle Carr. She drops us into the drama right away. In fact, this is a video that she does it at. She's like, nuclear missiles are incoming with 10 minutes until impact, okay? And she goes on with this hook. My point is, though, that is a perfect example of a story hook. Why? Because we're dropped into the video with the intensity already there and into the actual story. The next is the statement hook. And this is where you basically want to just shock or surprise your viewer. So like, this is another example Film Booth used that I really loved. YouTube Shorts won't wreck your channel. They'll destroy your life, right? And then here are a few that I like. It's like, you've been editing videos wrong, but this advice will help you change that. In fact, for my old YouTube channel, this was a hook that I used, and that video went on to get 36,000 views or something. And I only have like 1,000 subscribers on that channel, so which is a huge outlier. So this hook definitely works well. Or not listening to this advice won't just keep you where you are, it'll ruin your life. You know, something like kind of dramatic, but it's a statement hook, okay? Now, then you have the fourth one, which is the trifecta hook. And this, again, this one came straight from Film Booth, and he linked to this video of how all three of these work together. I'm going to actually leave this document for you guys to be able to look at in the description below. So for time's sake, for now, I don't want to sit here and watch other people's YouTube videos. I'll just give you the access to this document, and you could watch examples of this yourself, okay? Which leads us into, after creating the hook, the setup. And in the setup, what we can do is break up into 3 points. Basically what we're going to do is break this setup into 3 different points, right? So getting straight into it is, what is this simple setup system, which is what I'm kind of hooking here. Well, it all starts with your packaging, which is thumbnail and title. We already went over that. Here's what I want to go over. I want to go over this concept that I learned from Film Booth and that a lot of other strategists actually teach when it comes to script writing. And it's using this, whatever it is, whether you use Film Booth's framework, which is Ben's, or whether you use mine, which is the Spark framework, to create your packaging, whatever it is, you want to before you do your setup, you want to look at your packaging again, okay? And what you want to do is you want to, I made a to-do list here of things you want to do. You want to write down as many questions as you think your packaging will inspire or will evoke. What does that mean? It means if I'm a viewer, so let's say that this is my video, my thumbnail concept, and my title. If I'm coming out with this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to say, okay, if I'm a video editor somewhere else in the world and I scrolled on YouTube and saw this and stopped, what would be the subconscious questions that would come into my mind right away? Well, I would ask, what are the secrets? I would ask, how do I do this? I'd ask, will this help me make more money as an editor? Right? What's the proof? What happens if I don't do it? Am I an expert or a newbie? Where do I fit in? And here's an example setup that could be based on this process. So for example, what we're doing is we're taking these questions, and all we're doing in our setup to engage the audience is setting these questions up, okay? That's the point of the setup. It's to take the top 3 questions your packaging raises, write a setup that addresses those questions directly after the hook, and then to ensure your setup's in banger, ensure you also run this step, which is through the Spark framework, which we already went through, okay? So what we want to do now is we want to look at the packaging of our video idea, and we want to write down as many questions that comes to mind when we view the packaging. And when we do, we can put them together to actually write our setup. So an example of that based off of these questions could be, In this video, I'm going to reveal what the 5 secrets only expert editors know. How any level editor can easily make more money and increase the quality of your videos when you implement these secrets, and give you examples of creators who are already implementing them to blow up themselves. Okay? That's a perfect setup. Why? In this video, I'm going to reveal what the 5 secrets only expert editors know. Okay? What are the secrets? Well, I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you what they are. I'm answering that subconscious question, or not answering, I'm addressing it. Okay? How any level editor, that addresses the am I an expert or newbie? Where do I fit in? Okay? Can easily make more money and increase the quality of your videos. Okay? Which is here. Will it help me make more money as an editor? When you implement these secrets, and give you examples of creators who are already implementing them to blow up themselves. We are answering this question here, which is, what's the proof? Okay. And then we go into the next part, which is a story loop, statement, or rehook. Okay. And essentially what a loop is, or a story loop, or curiosity loop, whatever you want to call it, it's basically a one line that rehooks them after your setup and after your points. It's an open-ended question that rehooks them that we need to pay off later into the script. Okay. So the loop, I even say it here, the loop is a rehook after the setup. The main objective is to pose an interesting question or say a curiosity-provoking statement that re-engages them, which is why I sometimes just call these rehooks. And a way in which we can do this is to take a question that we've not set up, right? So up here, you notice that we didn't answer all these questions. For example, we didn't address the question that subconsciously might come into our minds when we see this packaging. What happens if I don't do it? We didn't address that in our setup. So what we could do is we can now take this question that we didn't address in the setup, and we could use it as a story loop. For example, right? We could say, as a story loop, but first, let me show you what happened to me when I didn't implement these tips and the huge change it made for me when I did. What happens if I don't do it? Now we're addressing that. Not only are we addressing another subconscious question that might be raised in our audience's mind when they see our packaging, but we're also using it as a story loop to keep watching, or a rehook for them to keep watching to the next point. Okay. Another example is we didn't address, am I an expert or newbie? Where do I fit? We did address that, but you could also use this question, a question from up here. You can use this question to also write a story loop or rehook. You could, an example of this would be, to start though, we need to work out what level of editor you are, and to ensure that you know how I'm about to action everything that I teach. Okay. Now after this, what we can do is take a few seconds to either go over the points that we're setting up. Okay. But that's probably not the best thing to do, because the idea of this is to keep it open-ended so that we keep curiosity high enough to watch all the way through the video. What we want to do instead is we want to use these points, or these story loops or rehooks, to set up our main points, okay? And if you're not sure, if you come up with a video idea and you're not sure what your main points are, for example, usually I like to keep my videos to only have 3 points. So if I'm teaching how to grow on YouTube, I'll have 3 points on how to do it. 3 different points I want to cover. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But that's why there's Film Booth put 3 points, and that's why I also use 3 points here, is because you really only ever need 3, okay? And to set up my first point, or my first talking point, the main part of the video I want to talk about, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this story loop or rehook to actually set up or re-engage you to listen to my point, okay? That's what I use these for. And the point of our actual talking points is to literally do the following. It's to pay off everything that we set up, and then we want to make sure that we're re-hooking them constantly as we're explaining our points. How do we do this? We do this through using stories, okay? So, for example, I'll try to use a different example than what I've been told. But basically, imagine you set up a really good curiosity loop, right? I'm going to teach you how to make the best steak that you've ever tasted in your entire life. In fact, it's so good that even Gordon Ramsay DM'd me on Instagram and asked me, how do I make this? Okay, boom, story loop. And then for the point, imagine you just said, all you need to do is add more salt. okay, that you would be, and then you explain it more in depth. Well, people would click off, right? And Film Booth explains this extraordinarily well, but I'm explaining it from a point of view of experience in the sense that, well, of course he's experienced, but in the sense that with my own client scripts, I've seen retention graphs that either stay straight, which are good, or completely drop off based off of how you approach the points in your script, okay? So for example, what happens if we just say that? If we say, oh, the point is add more salt to your steak to make it better, and then we explain the why, well, people are going to click off because they got what they wanted. So what we need to do is we need to methodically use stories or experiences and rehooks or story loops throughout our points to constantly tell the point and re-engage them, okay? So what I like to do is I like to take our setup as a guide for this. We use the setup that we wrote earlier. I like to take this as a guide. So in this video, I'm going to reveal what the 5 secrets only expert editors know at any level, blah, 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 blah. What we can do is follow this in order. So for example, let's say our first point, this is if you don't have points already in mind. You can use your setup to actually create your points. Meaning, okay, let's say I wanted to make a video called 5 editing secrets you'll be embarrassed you didn't know, but I didn't know what I wanted to make it on exactly. Like I want to do more than just 5 secrets. Well, I could say, okay, point 1 is what the 5 secrets are. Point 2 is how you can make more money with these secrets. And point 3 is giving examples of creators who've already implemented them. And that's how I could use my setup to still can give the value the person's looking for, but also address all the subconscious questions that are going to be asked in your audience's mind. Okay. Now, what I like to do as well is in my points or my talking points, add loops, statements, or story rehooks, right? Basically like we did in between our setup and our actual point, we added a story loop rehook, okay? I like to do that throughout my points, right? For example, we can do this by posing a lot of questions or, as I said earlier, telling a lot of stories, okay? Now, the most important thing that you don't want to do is, as I already said, and I'm just saying this again because it's so important, I got ahead of myself, but it's here, and it's don't pay off that loop instantly. The steak example, right? Don't give it away instantly. Now, again, Film Booth, I know I keep referencing him, but I've taken so many thousands of dollars worth of coaching. I have worked with scriptwriters. I've written a lot of well-performing scripts. And the best scripting advice that I've gotten was from that Film Booth video. I've just made it my own slightly. I've just done a few little tweaks in here. I haven't changed it much. And I'm just trying to share how I've changed it and basically taking what he's already done well and works and just reinventing it, just reverse engineering it just slightly, okay? Which is why I keep referencing Film Booth in this video and his scripting video, okay? I don't want you guys to feel like I'm copying him. I'm just, I want to give credit to him because a lot of this is from him, okay? So this is what you do not want your retention graph to look like. You do not want it to start high in the beginning and go down. What you want it to do is you want it to either increase, which is very rare, or you want it to just kind of stay straight, which means there's good retention. It means people are typically watching. And in between, towards the end of points, you'll see dip downs, but when you use hooks or story loops, you'll see a little boost up again, okay? Now, I wanted to share an example of how to tell stories with points, and it was one, as I mentioned, that Film Booth used of Alex Hormozi, right? Alex Hormozi, and I linked the video here, so if you guys want to just click on this document and watch the video, you can. But essentially, Alex Hormozi, he's trying to tell you a point in his video, and this is the exact same example that Film Booth used, but it's so good that I just wanted to use it again before I dive into how I actually did this for one of my scripts, so you guys can just see how it's actually done in practice, not just in theory, okay? And the way that he did this is Alex Hormozi was making a video and he was talking about the whole point of the video, or the point that he was trying to make, was how to get people, how to change your reputation and get people to respect you, right? And Alex Hormozi could have started by saying, listen, change your beliefs and start respecting yourself. And then over time, people will begin to respect you. And here's why. But if that happened, people would click off, right? Why? Because he gave away the point right away. But instead, what he does in the video linked here, which you can watch, is he told us a story where he actually started in a very dark moment of the story. He started where there was most conflict, where the stakes were the highest, as we talked about earlier, okay? And what he did is he talked about how nobody respected him, how he had bad habits, how he was living a rough lifestyle, and basically he just didn't like himself. Then he went and asked his dad for advice, right? Which a lot of us have the inclination to do. And he's like, Dad, what do I do? And his dad ended up being rude. And then that rehooks us because now there's more conflict that we didn't expect, right? But then it was the loop that pushed him into a moment of change, i.e., right, the key point where we're seeing his transformation of Alex Hormozi, right? So what is that transformation? Well, it's after his dad didn't care about him, we're being rehooked with the transformation because he said, oh, well, I ended up figuring out myself that no, I just had to be consistent. I had to have respect for myself and for my own habits. And then in turn, over time, people started beginning to view me with a better reputation. I had a better reputation. And that is how he looped us and rehooked us, okay? And this is so much more interesting than had he had just gotten to the point right away. Why? Because stories keep retention graphs flat, which is good. That's why we want to use stories. And I'm going to show you examples of this in a script that I've written, for example. And then finally is the last hook or the setup. And this is like the call to action, the final thing you want to do in your video. And my favorite way to do this, in fact, I did this before I ever even watched Film Booth's video on this, because I learned it from a coaching program that I was in, and I tested it out with a client of mine, that what I'm about to go over. And when we started implementing this, his call to action click-through rate it increased so much. Okay. So what your video should never do is it should never end, because the hardest thing to get somebody to do is to click onto your actual video. So if you can get them to click on their video and they've watched to the end, then we do not want to lose that. We want to keep them into our ecosystem of content. So if we have more content out, what we want to do is not do a call to action to any back-end offer that we're trying to sell or promote, because if they like us and we build enough trust and connection with them, they will seek that out. There's been so many times where I've come across YouTubers whom I love and what they're doing, and I'm like, okay, their content's so good that I'm going to try to find what they're offering. And they make it applicable, or they make it very easy to do by just putting the link in the description. But the point is to not actually do a call to action to any offer. The point is to do a call to action to continue to watch your videos, to enter into your content ecosystem, okay? And we do this because, again, getting people to enter into a video in the first place is the hardest part. So because we already have them, we want to keep them. Now, a way to do this, and I've actually done this with my old channel all about video editing. I've done this in probably the last 4 videos I uploaded, and each one of those videos were huge performing outliers based off of my subscriber and average view count, okay? And my end screen click-through rate was insane. All you need to do is you need to rehook them, and you need to set it up exactly how we did in the beginning, okay? In fact, an example of this is by doing the following, okay? You rehook them by saying, but here's the thing, right? And then you set it up by saying, everything I just told you is completely useless. Again, not only is that engaging and rehooking, but we're setting something up. Because there is still 3 things that if you don't understand or you don't fix, everything I just told you won't work. Meaning, oh my God, what's happening right now? Did I just waste 10 minutes of my time watching this video for it not to work? Okay. And then what you can do is you could end that by saying, but watch this video next to solve those problems in less than 10 minutes. Okay. What does this mean? It means that we're having a hook right here. Then we're setting up here to our next video, and then we're giving them the solution, or we're setting up a problem, and then we're giving them the solution here, okay? And this is my favorite thing to do after every video. I'm like, but here's the thing. Everything I just told you is completely useless, because there are still X things that if you don't understand or you don't fix, then everything I just told you won't work. So watch this video next to solve them in less than 10 minutes. And then they're going to click on that video, they're going to watch 10 minutes, and now they're going to be in my ecosystem. This is just one example. By the way, guys, this is my design template that I use for every single client script. So the first thing I do is I do thumbnail ideation, then I figure out what the titles are going to be, and I put them here, and then I have my scripts here, and I just put the hook here, right, the setup here, the loop, all that. So if you guys want this, I'll make this a separate document and also make it downloadable in the link in the description below. Now what I want to do is I want to show you a script of me actually doing this. Okay, so when we look at this script that I did, and if you want to watch this video, it's already on my channel. This is basically the thumbnail ideation that I did. I gave some notes to the thumbnail designers. I took it through the Spark framework that I told you about, and I basically took what I taught you so far in the scripting template, and I did it for my actual own script. Okay. In fact, this is my hook. Have you ever wondered how the top 1% of YouTubers grow their YouTube channel to 1,000, 10,000, even 1 million subscribers in what feels like only a couple of months? Okay, this is just an idea for the edit, but this is my hook. Then what do? I go straight to the setup. So basically, I address questions that using the Spark framework. I make sure that this is a good concept, and then what I do is I go through my thumbnail and title concept, and I ask myself questions. What will my audience subconsciously question when they see this video? Well, their questions, I wrote them down here. Their questions are probably going to be when they see, well, if you start a YouTube channel in 2025, I'd do this. Their questions are going to be, well, what's the main roadmap, or what are the steps? Do I need all kinds of gear to do this? How time consuming will it be? Do I need to hire people? Can I grow a channel fast without watching this? How long will it take me to get 1,000 subscribers? Is there proof that this works? These are all questions that I feel my audience would ask. So what do? I take these questions to write my setup. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact blueprint that the top YouTubers today use to grow their YouTube channels. Okay. Well, what are we doing here? We're showing proof. We're setting up proof, and how you can do it too in 2025 without it taking months or even years. What are we doing here? Well, we're setting up we're not setting up, we're addressing the subconscious question of how time consuming will it be? Okay. Or sorry, for how long will it take me to get to 1,000 subscribers? Then what we're doing is, without needing to buy a bunch of gear or hire people. Okay. Do I need to hire people is another subconscious question that I feel my audience would ask. And without having to spend countless hours every single week, right? Which addresses the next question, which is how time consuming will it be? I addressed some of these questions to write my setup. Then what do? Well, I have my loop. But first, let me show you how, when I implemented this for some of my clients, which is, again, hitting on the proof here. So for some of my clients, well, it changed everything. Like Chad, who I took from 2,000 subscribers to 40,000 subscribers in less than 90 days. Or Josh, whose videos began to consistently hit the 1, 3, even 5 million view mark when I came in and implemented these strategies. Boom, you're engaged. You're like, okay, well, now I really want to know what these are. Okay. Then we go into point 1, which is, okay, when we look at the YouTube workflow, it's pretty simple, right? Now, what I could do is for point 1, I could just tell you that point 1 is to use outlier theories to find what works, reverse engineer it, and basically just you do that for yourself. Or I can tell this point through stories. So first I say, well, when we look at the YouTube workflow, it's pretty simple, right? What do we have? We have an idea. We record that idea. Most people come up with a thumbnail as they post that idea, and then they just click publish. And then they wonder why they never get any views, subscribers, or traction. But despite what you might think, this is the rehook, because I'm thinking at this point, yeah, this is engaging this point, but at this point, they're probably going to be like, maybe I'm going to click off, maybe I'm not. So I'm going to rehook them and say, well, despite what you might, and by the way, this rehook is a part of point 1. I rehook a ton. Then what I'll say is, well, despite what you might think, YouTube growth doesn't happen so easily, or by chance for that matter. Why? Because a lot of people think that it's just luck. Videos go viral by luck. That's not true. So then I address potential doubts people may have. They'll be like, oh, well, Dylan, what about people like Sam Solik or William Brown, right? They get so many views and subscribers and they don't try at all. They just post screen grabs from their videos as their thumbnail. And then I say, again, I create an open loop here that I'll come back to later. I say, well, I'll tell you the one secret as to why creators like Sam Solik or William Brown get so many views and subscribers without even seeming like they're trying. But first, you need to understand how to properly structure the workflow of a YouTube video. Okay. Now, what I'm doing here is multiple different things. I'm rehooking by bringing in a familiar figure. Sam Solek, because millions of people know who that is, as well as William Brown. Okay. I'm creating a curiosity trigger by saying the one secret, and creating a loop by basically setting up the fact that I'll come back to this later. And then sorry, this is a note for the editors. And then what I'm doing is I'm going back to the point at hand. I'm saying, but first, and I'm giving them a reason why they need to keep listening to this point. We need to first understand how to properly structure workflow of YouTube. Then I say, instead of getting straight into the structure, I slowly get into it through stories. So curiosity evoking things like, but first, do you know what psychology is? Okay, well, what about data? Do you know what data is? Yeah, well, did you know that you can use psychology and data to almost guarantee someone clicks onto your video and watches all the way through every time? What am I doing here? I'm not only getting further into my point, I'm asking questions that re-engage them because they're actually answering these subconsciously or actually consciously. And secondly, is I am using emotion and curiosity combined together to get them to keep watching. Why? Because I'm letting them know, did you know that you could use psychology and data to almost guarantee someone clicks? That's super curiosity evoking for someone who wants to grow a YouTube channel. Then I'm saying, on your videos that make them want to watch it all the way through every time. Getting a click and getting somebody to watch your videos all the way through every time and get a lot of views, that evokes emotion for people who want to grow their YouTube channel because it's something they deeply desire, okay? Then I go on to say, see, it all starts with the hook. And no, not the hook of your videos. And as in the first line you say to get people interested into the video, I'm talking about the very first hook. They're like, wait, what? There's another kind of hook? The one that gets people to click onto your video in the first place. The title and thumbnail, also known as the packaging. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I knew that. Maybe I'll click off. Well, wait, what do? I say, see, this is the very first thing that we need to focus on when deciding to come up with a YouTube video if we want to create content with the goal of growing. Again, I'm like, okay, there's a need here that might re-engage me a little bit, but I'm still debating at this point if I want to click off or not. So what do? While explaining my point, I had another rehook. And there are two reasons why this is. And without understanding these two reasons, you're guaranteeing failure. Nobody wants failure, especially people who want to grow their YouTube channels. So what is this doing? This is playing on emotion and urgency, or FOMO, fear of missing out. They're playing on all those emotions to get, just with one sentence, to get you to keep watching all the way through, okay? Or at least to the next point. Then again, instead of getting to the point, well, what do? I say, I create a story out of it, or a uniquely curiosity evoking, engaging point. I say, well, when you scroll through YouTube, 99% of the time, the reason you decide to click on a video, it's because the title and thumbnail piques your interest. And then this gets them thinking. It's a thought-provoking statement, right? Because they're like, wait, oh yeah, it's true. I actually do. Then I say, well, when you stop scrolling to take another look, there are a lot of subconscious questions that come up in your mind. For example, when you clicked on this video, some of the subconscious questions you may have had when clicking on my title and thumbnail was, and I say those questions. And this could be twofold. One, they'll listen through it and be like, yeah, kind of, I guess. And then two, the person who did actually have these questions, which I know my audience pretty well, so I'm pretty sure they will, then they would be like, oh my God, this is really engaging because that's the exact question I had, right? Then what do? I go into the next paragraph. You see, when you come up with your packaging, the idea, the title, and the thumbnail before anything else, which by the way, a lot of people don't know to do. They always do that like after they already make the video or come up with the idea. So then they're like, okay, cool, this is a new way to do it. Then I'm saying, you're able to ask yourself the questions that your audience will likely have when they see the title and thumbnail themselves. And by brainstorming what those questions could be before writing your script, you ensure you're going to deliver material that's exactly what your audience wants to see, in turn, giving you exceptional retention on your videos. Now, the retention they might be inclined to start to click off, and then at the end I say, in turn, giving you exceptional retention on your videos. What does this do? This re-engages you because I'm hitting on an emotion that you want or a desire you want. Then I say, in fact, I did this strategy with the video that you're watching right now, calling them out. Because if they're still watching at this point, this strategy worked on them. And I say, I came up with the title and thumbnail concept, and then I ask myself, well, when people see this packaging, what questions will they have? Then after some brainstorming, what I did is I wrote those questions down, which for this video were the questions I brought up a second ago, and then I'll restate those questions. And then again, they'll start to be inclined to want to click off at this point, and then I say, but then to ensure I got you to keep watching, I address this sentence right here. They'll be like, wait, okay, what did he do to get us to keep watching? And then I'll say, I address those questions right away. When I said the start of this video, and then I go over this again, and probably I'll re-engage them here through the actual edit by having this on screen and then bolding the points that I used or to prove to them how I actually use these questions to write my setup. Okay. And then I'll say, and guess what? You're still watching. And then they'll take a second to think, but wait, I actually am still watching. And even if they're skeptic, they'll be like, I'm watching just because I want to see if this guy knows what he's talking about. But then they'll still be like, wait, but I'm still watching, right? So what I do here is, because right here is a pretty good moment for people to want to click off, is I instantly go back in with a loop or a rehook. I say, before getting in my next point, I say, but despite that being some of maybe the best YouTube advice you've ever received, like a little comedy jab here, I guess you could say, I say, what if the viewer doesn't click at all? Okay, wait, what? I didn't even think about that. Now I'm adding some stakes. Then everything I just told you was completely useless. I'm like, what? Like this right here, first of all, this, I'm like, okay, I need to know where he's getting at, because I didn't just spend the last 5 minutes of my life watching that for it to be useless. That's one. Two, what if the viewer doesn't click at all? Now I'm like, wait, I didn't think about that, right? I'm evoking a more curiosity, evoking questions in the mind. And then I instantly go into the next line, which is why it's super important to understand how to come up with outlier YouTube ideas and thumbnails. But first, now I'm getting into my point. What do I say the next word? I say what? I say imagine. I am entering now into a story, not into the point. I am telling the point through a story. I'm saying, but first, imagine you had a YouTube channel with 50 subscribers, and which, before I continue to go, what I could do is I could explain to them what an outlier YouTube idea is, right? It's a video idea that performs better than others. That's an outlier. Okay, cool. Now I want to click off. Or you could do what I did. But first, imagine you had a YouTube channel with only 50 subscribers, and then you post a video, and that video gets 20 views. Then the next day you post another video, and that one gets 18 views. Then the next day you post another video, but this time the video gets 1 million views. Now you're like putting yourself in the shoes of what I'm saying. You're like, whoa. This would be insane. I'm super emotionally tied in right now. And then I say, that's what an outlier is. You see how I explained what it was through story. I say that's what an outlier is. It's a video that performs significantly better than any other video on your channel in comparison to your other content or channel size. But how do you actually find those outliers so that you can implement them for your own channel? Again, at this point, they'd be like, cool, okay, that's what an outlier is, but what does that do for me? And I'm saying, but I'm evoking another stake evoking question in the sense that I'm setting stakes here, in the sense that if I don't keep watching, I will not know how to find outliers. Okay. And then I say, okay, despite it being a simple process, it's one that is heavily gatekept for some of the biggest. So what do? I say, despite it being a simple process, I'm like, okay, cool. It's simple. That means I can probably do it, especially as a newbie, right? If this is a newbie watching, I could say, and then I say, it's one that is heavily gatekept from some of the biggest creators on YouTube because it's like their secret sauce. I'm super engaged right now because I want to know what this is. And I say, but I just started this channel from scratch with the intention of growing it from 0 to 30,000 subscribers in less than 90 days to prove it's not luck. So to ensure I secure your subscribe, I'm going to pull back the curtain and reveal how to do this. Now this is a rule break. I would never do this. I would never do a call to action like this, a subscribe action. The only reason I did it was because I felt that I built up enough curiosity to get them to watch through this next 10 seconds without clicking off. But as soon as I finish the sentence, I don't give a second for them to think. I just go straight into the next one, which is, and this strategy of finding outliers to grow your own channel, it's one that I use with every client I work with to generate hundreds of thousands of subscribers and millions of views. Boom, rehooking, re-engaging by restating, listen, you should keep watching because This strategy that I'm about to share with you, it's one that I've used to get my clients hundreds of thousands of views all together, accumulated, counted up, and millions of views together, okay? Then I go in to find outlier video concepts and thumbnails. What I like to do is something called niche hacking. I go, and then I actually just go into the process, right? But I'm going to keep it engaging by sharing hopefully what's new knowledge to them in an engaging way. I say, well, I go to YouTube, I go and I search a specific keyword, for example, video editing. And by the way, I'll show all this through video editing and help make this engaging as well. So showing visuals, in story, there's a big rule, which is show, don't tell. And I think scripts and video edits play a huge part together. They really go hand in hand. You can have an amazing script, and yes, you can have a video blow up and do well and retention go all the way, but you can also help aid your script with video editing. They're very complementary to each other. So there's a lot of times, like for example, I know that maybe this line, that I have to teach them this to provide the value. And the value alone could get them to keep watching. But for me, I know the way that I'm going to keep or rehook them in this specific sentence or paragraph, since it's an educational one, is through the video editing, showing, not telling. Okay. Then I go into, again, but I'm always saying, but the problem is, what's the problem? It's that this process can become extremely time consuming. I'm like, man, I don't want to spend a bunch of time doing this. I don't have time for this. I'm a business owner maybe, right? Or somebody who just doesn't have a lot of time, which is why, giving a solution, I use vidIQ's completely free Chrome extension so that when I scroll through YouTube, I see this outlier score right next to the creator's video. What is this? Not really engaging, but very, very value packed. I'm providing a lot of value. Okay. Then I say, but what about finding thumbnails that are proven to perform? That was just video ideas, right? And then I go through the whole process again for thumbnails and loop. What I really want to show you though is the end, right? Because I continue to do this, which by the way, before we do that, towards the end, I go back into explaining why creators like Sam Solik and William Brown can do YouTube without really even trying. And I explain that or close that loop. Do you remember I opened that loop earlier in the story or earlier in my video here? I hooked them or opened a story loop here by saying, I'm going to share this one secret with you, but first, and then I get into my whole script. And then towards the end, what do? I explain to you why in an engaging way, and I close that loop, giving you a sense of satisfaction. Then I do one more loop when you feel like you want to click off by saying, there are so many small and unimportant things to understand when starting a YouTube channel, but if you understand and implement the few big strategies you just learned, I can guarantee you that videos you release will do better than you could have ever imagined. But everything I just told you is completely useless. Because there are still 3 things that if you don't understand or you don't fix, everything I just told you won't work. One of those things is how to tell better stories in your videos to get people to watch for much longer. But luckily for you, if you want to learn how to do that, then click on this video right here. And then I'll probably have a video, hypothetically speaking, this is just an example, I would have a video come up on screen as I'm saying that, which is a video I made on storytelling, right? And that right there is how you write a script that will get retention to last and get people engaged. By the way, if you do want to watch that video on storytelling, then you could watch that video right here.